International news now.
So let's now move on to a couple of updates on news stories that we covered last week. First, remember the recent shakeup within the political and economic establishment in Saudi Arabia that resulted in hundreds of arrests that included some of the wealthiest Saudi officials and entrepreneurs in the country, including one of the world's wealthiest men, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, who's a major investor in American firms. There have been some important updates that we want to note that suggest the region is coming even closer to a larger conflict. First, Saad Hariri, the former prime minister of Lebanon, is still in Saudi Arabia, and there is growing suspicion that he has been kept there, perhaps against his will. He finally gave an interview in which he said he would be returning to Lebanon to explain his resignation. He also made some comments suggesting that he would rescind his resignation if the Lebanese government reined in Hezbollah and made it end its activities in the Syrian civil war. So stay tuned on what happens to him. In the meantime, Saudi Arabia has increased the pressure on Lebanon. It has told its citizens to leave Lebanon, which was taken by some as a signal that it may be preparing some sort of military intervention in Lebanon or trying to get some other country, namely Israel, to launch a military attack on Hezbollah. Indeed, the Hezbollah leader accused Saudi Arabia of asking Israel to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon. If true, this would be a dramatic escalation in the proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran by bringing in another very controversial actor in Israel. Saudi Arabia and Israel are not natural allies, and many sectors of Saudi society would react strongly against any sort of emerging alliance between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, some commentators argue that the arrest of Prince Al-Walid bin Talal was part of MBS's preparations for such an alliance. Prince bin Talal is reportedly Saudi Arabia's most prominent figure who has been strongly sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. His arrest may have been an attempt to preempt any opposition to the budding alliance with Israel and a signal to others not to stand in the way. Now, second, the escalation of a Saudi-Iranian proxy war spilling over to Lebanon is tied to the Syrian civil war and Hezbollah's success in aiding the Assad regime in Syria. Hezbollah's activities in Syria have made it much stronger, and both Saudi Arabia and Israel may be contemplating military actions in Lebanon in order to cut Hezbollah back down to size. Now, finally, what's the Trump administration's role in all of this? Two important points. First, the generally hostile rhetoric by the Trump administration against Iran has arguably inviting these aggressive Saudi moves as a way to gain favor with President Trump and his stated goal to contain Iran. So there's some consistency there. Finally, there's also much more direct evidence of direct influence because Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner, met with MBS in Riyadh prior to the crackdown and thus may have been informed about these plans ahead of time.